We're going to dive into everything about Michael Jordan. You know, we look at him now, and we see a god. We see the silhouette, the Jumpman, a brand worth billions, a legacy that feels almost pre-ordained. Like the universe just decided, yeah, he's the one. But if you want to understand the fire, the absolute, borderline terrifying obsession that drove Michael Jeffrey Jordan, you don't start in Chicago. You don't start with the 6 rings or the MVP trophies. You have to go back, way back to Wilmington, North Carolina. And you have to talk about Larry. Larry Jordan was Michael's older brother. And by all accounts back then, Larry was the one. He was stronger, he was more athletic, and when they played one-on-one in the backyard on that makeshift court their father, James, built, Larry won, over and over again. Michael wasn't just losing. He was being broken, day after day, under the hot North Carolina sun. Imagine that. The greatest of all time, getting beat in his own backyard by his brother, and then came 1978, Laney High School. Michael is a sophomore standing around 5'11". He tries out for the varsity team. He wants it more than anything. The list goes up on the wall. He walks up to it, eyes scanning the names. And his name isn't there. His friend Leroy Smith, who was 6'7", makes the cut. Michael doesn't. "I went to my room," Michael would say years later, "and I shut the door and I cried. I just cried. Now most kids, they get hurt. They find another hobby. They accept their limits. But Michael, that rejection didn't break him. It did something far more dangerous. It localized a virus inside him. A virus called, 'I will never let you forget this.' Every single time he didn't want to get up, every time he wanted to quit during a workout, he would close his eyes and see that blank space on the gym wall where his name should have been. He grew 4 inches over the next year, a literal act of God, or maybe just sheer force of will. He made the team. He dominated. By the time he left Laney, he wasn't just good. He was a force of nature. But that insecurity? That feeling of being left out, of being told he wasn't enough? It never left him. It became the fuel for everything that followed. Chapel Hill. The legendary Dean Smith is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Dean Smith didn't care about hype. He cared about the system. He was a man who believed no single player was bigger than the program. In fact, people used to joke that the only person who could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points a game was Dean Smith, and Michael bought in. He learned discipline. He learned how to defend, how to move without the ball, how to be a part of a machine. But the killer instinct? You can't coach that. You're either born with it or you aren't. Let's look at March 29th, 1982, the NCAA National Championship game. Louisiana Superdome. North Carolina versus Georgetown. Georgetown has Patrick Ewing, a towering, intimidating monster in the paint. The game is a dogfight. Seconds left on the clock. UNC is down by 1. Coach Smith calls a timeout. He looks at his team. He sets up a play, but he looks at the freshman, the kid. He says, "Michael, if you get the shot, take it. Think about the pressure. You're 19 years old. Millions of people watching. The entire season on the line." The ball moves. It finds its way to the left wing. Michael catches it. He doesn't hesitate. He rises up, perfectly, fundamentally sound, just like Dean taught him. That shot didn't just win a championship. It killed Mike Jordan, the kid from Wilmington. And it gave birth to Michael Jordan. It was the moment he realized that he wasn't just meant to play the game, he was meant to rule it. By 1984, he's ready for the league. He skips his senior year. The NBA draft arrives. The Houston Rockets take Hakeem Olajuwon at number 1. Fair enough, Hakeem is a legend. But then the Portland Trail Blazers pick second. They need a center, so they pass on Jordan and take Sam Bowie. Yeah, Sam Bowie. We all know how that turned out. The Chicago Bulls, a franchise that was practically irrelevant. Sitting at number 3, just draft the kid from North Carolina. They knew he was good, but they had no idea they had just handed the keys to the city to a man who was about to reshape global culture. When Michael arrived in Chicago in the fall of '84, the Bulls were a joke. The stadium was half empty. The team was known more for its partying off the court than its play on it. But Michael? He changed the culture on day one. He practiced like it was Game 7 of the finals. He humiliated veterans who didn't give 100%. He was flying. Literally. The dunk contests, the gravity-defying drives, the shoes. Oh, the Air Jordans. Nike expected to sell $3 million worth of shoes in 4 years. They made $126 million in the first year alone. He was a rock star. But on the court, he was lonely. He scored 63 points against the legendary Boston Celtics in the 1986 playoffs at the Boston Garden. After the game, Larry Bird, one of the coldest trash talkers in history, looked at reporters and said, "That was God disguised as Michael Jordan." But guess what? The Bulls lost that game. They got swept. 'Cause basketball isn't a one-man show. And Michael was learning that the hard way. Enter the late 1980s. Enter the Detroit Pistons. The Bad Boys. Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman. They didn't just want to beat Jordan. They wanted to physically break him. They created the Jordan rules. It wasn't a tactical strategy. It was an eviction notice. Every time Michael drove into the paint, they hit him. They threw him to the floor. They cloaked him, undercut him, bruised his ribs. They dared the referees to call a foul on every play. And it worked. Year after year, 88, 89, 90, the Pistons eliminated the Bulls. People started talking. The media started writing columns. Sure, Jordan is flashy. He can fly. But he's selfish. He can't win the big one. He's not a winner like Magic or Bird. Can you imagine what that did to his mind? The man who couldn't stand losing a game of ping pong was being told by the entire world that he didn't have what it takes. So, what did he do? He didn't complain to the media. He didn't ask for a trade. He went into the weight room. He told his trainer, Tim Grover, "I want to get stronger. I want to build a body that can absorb the beating and keep going." He gained 15 pounds of pure muscle. He also got a new coach, Phil Jackson. Phil brought the triangle offense. He told Michael, "You have to trust your teammates. You have to give up the ball so you can get it back when it matters." Michael surrendered his ego to the system. The trap was set. The fire was burning hotter than it ever had before. The Eastern Conference Finals. Bulls versus Pistons yet again. But this time, the Pistons couldn't hurt him anymore. The Bulls swept them. It was a demolition. It was so brutal that Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons walked off the court before the buzzer even sounded, refusing to shake hands. Michael didn't care. He was going to the finals. They beat Magic Johnson's Lakers in '91. Michael cries on the trophy, clutching it like a newborn child. Then they beat Portland in '92, the famous shrug game where he couldn't miss a three-pointer. Then they beat Phoenix in '93, 3 straight championships. A three-peat. He was the undisputed king of the world. The Dream Team in Barcelona in 1992 had made him a global deity. You couldn't walk down a street in Tokyo, Paris, or Johannesburg without seeing his face. But heavy is the head that wears the crown. By 1993, Michael was exhausted. The gambling controversies, the constant media scrutiny, the lack of privacy. He couldn't even leave his hotel room. He was a prisoner of his own fame. He was tired of being Michael Jordan, and then the universe dealt the cruelest blow possible. In July 1993, his father, James Jordan, was murdered in North Carolina during a roadside robbery. James wasn't just his father. He was his best friend. He was the man who sat in the stands, who advised him, who anchored him to reality. Michael was devastated. The joy of the game was gone. The fire was put out by tears. In October 1993, at the absolute peak of his athletic powers, Michael Jordan retired from basketball. "I wanted to see if I could do something else," he said. But really, he was just a grieving son fulfilling a dream his father had always had for him, to play baseball. He went to the minor leagues, playing for the Birmingham Barons. He rode the buses. He hit .202. People laughed. The media called it an embarrassment. But they didn't get it. For Michael, it wasn't about being great. It was about the grind. It was about escaping the ghost of MJ and finding Mike again. It was therapy. But you can only stay away from your true destiny for so long. In early 1995, Major League Baseball went on strike. Michael walked out of the facility. He went back to Chicago. He practiced with the Bulls in secret. On March 18, 1995, he sent a 2-word press release to the world. "I'm back." He didn't wear 23 when he came back. He wore 45. He looked a little rusty. The Bulls lost to the Orlando Magic in the 1995 playoffs. Nick Anderson, a player for Orlando, said, "Number 45 doesn't explode like number 23 used to." Mistake. Huge mistake. That summer, Michael filmed Space Jam, but he had Warner Brothers build a basketball court on the studio lot, the Jordan Dome. He invited the best players in the NBA to scrimmage with him every single night after filming. He was using them to get his rhythm back. He switched back to number 23. The 1995-1996 Chicago Bulls went 72-10, the best regular season record in history at the time. They cruised to the finals, beating Seattle, and they won it on Father's Day. If you ever want to see the true weight of greatness, watch the footage of Michael after that game. He's on the floor of the United Center locker room, clutching the ball, weeping uncontrollably. It was the first championship he won without his father. It was pure, unadulterated release. They won again in '97, the famous flu game, where he dragged his dehydrated, poisoned body to 38 points against Utah. Then came 1998, the last dance. The front office, led by Jerry Krause, had already made it clear this was it. Phil Jackson was out after this year. Scottie Pippen was frustrated. The team was old, tired, and fraying at the edges. It was a modern-day empire on the verge of collapse, but Michael refused to let it fall. He dragged that team through the grueling 1998 season through sheer intimidation and unmatched will. Game 6, 1998 NBA Finals, Delta Center, Utah. The crowd is deafening. Scottie Pippen's back is broken. He can barely walk. The Bulls are down by 1 with under 40 seconds left. Karl Malone gets the ball in the post for Utah. Michael sneaks up from the blind side, strips it. He steals the ball. He drives up the court. No timeout. He wants it in his hands. He drives right, pushes off just enough on Brian Russell, or maybe it was just a crossover, depending on who you ask in Utah. Russell slips. Michael rises. The form is perfect. The clock ticks down. Nothing but net. 5.2 seconds left. That shot was the perfect period at the end of the most beautiful sentence ever written in sports history. He would come back later, sure, with the Washington Wizards in his 40s, but that was an epilogue. That didn't change the story. Michael Jordan didn't just play basketball. He redefined what it meant to be an athlete. He showed us the absolute limit of human drive. He showed us that greatness isn't clean. It's messy, it's angry, it's obsessive, and it demands everything you have. We will see greater athletes, perhaps. We will see players with more rings, maybe. But we will never, ever see another Michael Jordan. Because the mold was broken the moment he stepped off that court in Utah. A man who flew, who conquered, and who left us all just watching the sky, wondering how he stayed up there for so long. That's all from Mango. Thanks for watching. Bye.